Hey, how's it going? This is Hellbent and welcome to AutoHotkey GUI mini tutorial number 21. In this tutorial, we're going to be taking a look at how you can save information off of your GUI into a file and then how to load it back in. This is going to be part of a mini series where we're going to take a look at multiple different ways that we can do this and what we need to know in order to make this meet all of our needs. So I've already gone ahead and created a basic GUI for us to use for this. So in the link in the description, there's going to be a link to a Pastebin file. All you're going to do is go to that Pastebin file and go to down to the bottom, and there's going to be an area called raw paste data. Just click in there anywhere and then hit Control A, Control C, and then now it's in your clipboard and you can paste that into your script. So now that you have it, go ahead and give it a run. So I'm going to save this and run it. And you'll end up with this. So this is the template that we're going to be working on. And we're going to be using this template for 2 tutorials. The first one, we're going to be looking at how we just use a single field and how to save that. So for example, if I was writing a letter or something like that, I'm just going to take a single piece of information and save it to a file. And then I'm going to make it so that way it retrieves that information and then it's going to redisplay it on our GUI. We're also going to be taking a look at how we're going to set it up so that way it'll save automatically as we write out what we're typing in, and the other way is we'll wait until we're done before we actually submit it. In addition to that, we're going to set it up so that we have a button that will actually show us the text document that we create, and we're going to add in a reload button. So lots of things to cover. Before we go into when we start typing in, I'm just going to go quickly over everything that's on your page right now. So the beginning, don't worry about it, it's just the description to go along with it. The first area, we have our settings. This first thing that we're going to do is we're going to set the working directory. So wherever this script is in your whatever file it's in, it's going to remember that place. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to create a subfolder where we're going to place the files that we're creating. So when we write our text document, it's going to save it. It's going to create a new directory that's going to be named temp file folder for GUI mini tut 21. And then once that's created, we're going to set that as our working directory. So you don't have to worry about this cluttering up your scripts. The document will be in its own folder, and then when you're done, you can delete the folder if you want. Next, I've created a list of variables that I've already added into the GUI, and this is going to come in handy later. So what we can do later when we're starting to type is if we don't have these variables memorized, all we have to do is just copy this into our clipboard, and wherever we're working, we can just paste it in so that way we have a reference to what all the variable names. Okay, next we have our GUI layout. We have it colored. The background is black so that way it's a little bit easier for you to see it on this screen, and I've made the edit boxes a slight tint of pink, I think. Okay, they haven't been enabled, but they have like a slight pink tint to them, so that way once again it's easier for you to see on your screen. Next, we have 2 radio buttons, and this is going to play in what section we're in. So this first video, we're going to be working in this area here, as well as a couple of the controls down there. But basically, this is the area that we're going to be working on, and we're going to select between them by using the radio button up at the top. The next area is the area that we're going to be programming today, where we have our group box, our edit control that we're going to be used to type in, a checkbox we're going to set to determine whether we want to save as we type or wait until we press a button to save. The next thing is the button that we're going to press to actually update if we chose not to do an autosave. The next one is we're going to set it up so that way we have a button that'll load the contents of the file that we end up creating into a variable We're not going to do anything with it there. We're just going to load it into the variable. So that's part of what we're going to cover. And then afterwards, we are going to take what we stored in that variable and we're going to update it back up onto the screen. And this is the most part of what we're doing. And the last one will be 2 of these buttons down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a button down here and we're going to have set this so that way it runs the text document that we create. And what we have also is how we actually reload our script. So lots of things that we haven't covered before, which is why I've already pre-assembled all this. If you feel adventurous, what you can actually do is ignore the fact that this exists and you can try to recreate it on your own as a way of practicing. So just see what you see on the screen and try to reproduce everything. Okay, so let's just jump into it. The first thing we're going to do is the simplest. Let me actually get this up. Let's do the simplest things first. So what we're going to do is, right now as it is, I have all the controls are disabled. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through. Depending on which radio button you click on, it's going to activate specific controls for us to be able to use. So if we select bulk save, it's going to unlock these controls here as well as one of the buttons down here. And then if we select delimited save, it's going to unlock these buttons in here and this one down here. We're going to be working with the bulk save this time, so let's just do that. So we're going to come down to, I've already created the label for it. So if we select, this is the label that we're going to be going to, select selection or section. And I'm going to take a copy of my variable. So I'm going to copy, including the comment or the block comment with it. So that way it doesn't cause any problems. And I'm just going to take this down here and I'm going to just place it in anywhere I want. And if I feel like it's getting in the way, I can just condense it. And I can move it around as I need. So let's have a look at our first one. So we want select section. Here we go. We have the label here. So let's just jump into this. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to need to update the variable that's associated with those controls. So the way we're going to do that is just our GUI submit. No hide. Okay, so now when we press on our radio button, it'll update the value that we are expecting in that variable. Next we're going to do is we're going to do a check to see if we have the bulk save selected or the delimited save selected. So we're just going to do if that, do that. And then else if do that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check if this variable here, which is the variable associated with this radio button right here, we're going to check if that equals 1. Oops, I did not mean to do that. Okay, what I meant to do was copy this because I'm a slow typer. So I'm just going to paste that in there and I'm going to say if radio select bulk equals 1, what we're going to do is we are going to enable a bunch of different controls. So let's just go through them. GUI control. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using the enable subcommand. And then the control that we're going to be enabling. So in our case, it's going to be, let's start with what we have first. So we're going to enable this edit box first. And I've named my variables in a way that the first couple of letters of it make sense for what it is. So if I look here, I have EB, which stands for edit box. So I don't need to go up and look at what I actually put up in the code up there. I can tell that EB bulk save is the variable that we're going to be using. So I'm just going to paste that in there, and there we go. When we press on that radio button, this one's going to get enabled. I'm going to duplicate this a couple of times. Let's see how many controls we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 controls that we want to enable. So I'm just going to go ahead and create 6 enables right away. So I held Control plus D as I was hovering over it. I'm going to be changing the variable for the name of the control. So the next one I have is this AutoSave checkbox, and checkbox should be CB. CB, it's the only checkbox I have, so that is the variable that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to enable the checkbox. Next, I have a couple of buttons. So let's see. I don't actually have buttons in it, but I thought I added the buttons. Maybe I didn't end up doing that. Okay, so we're going to need to look at our buttons. So our first button here is press to save. If I look here, I can see a button that has the text on it, press to save, and I can see that it has a variable called button 1. To save a little bit of time, I'm going to inspect what the other two buttons I have. So I have button 1, button 2, and button 3. So I'm going to quickly use those. So this one here is going to be button 1. I'm just going to copy that, paste it there, change the last number on it to button 2. And then this one's going to be button 3. I also know that I have one last control, which is also a button, and it's going to be this button right here, which is going to allow us to open up our text document. So let's go and have a look at which one that is. So it says the text on it is display bulk.txt. So if I find that one here, I see that it's right there. I look for its variable, button 6. So we're going to enable button 6. What we're going to do is, now we're going to say that if it's not that, we're going to disable these controls. So right here, this radio button right here is called rad select delimited. So I'm going to take that variable and I'm going to put it into my conditional, my if statement here, and I'm going to say if this equals 1. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to copy this and paste it in here. We're going to take our enable, so I'm going to double click on enable to highlight that whole word, and I'm going to change it to disable. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on disable to highlight it, and I'm going to hit Control C to copy it into my clipboard, and then I'm just going to go through double click, Control V, double click, Control V, and so on. Okay, let's have a look at what we have. So if we press the bulk save radio button, it should enable a bunch of our controls. And there we go, we have our controls enabled. And if we hit the other one, it should disable them. And then we'll do when we come to the next part, the next video, we will change it so that way if we're going to be working with this one here, it disables and so on. So, okay, actually I want that running. So let's see what the next thing we want to do. Let me see my list of, I didn't have a particular order of arranging my labels. So let's see, reload the GUI. So let's go ahead and add some functionality to this reload button. So if we hit this reload button, it's going to trigger this label, and this label, all it's going to do is reload our script. So we just type in reload, and bam, Bob's your uncle. So we're going to hit save, run. And now when we hit this reload button, here I'll move it over here so that way it actually, you can see it's reload. It'll reload our script. Okay, so that's our next control, our next thing out of the way. Next we're going to have a submit all. Now submit all is a common label that I use if I have controls that all I really want to do is just submit their value. I don't need to do any logic or anything like that. So usually if I have controls that I'm just submitting values into the variables, updating the GUI if you will, I'll just use the same submit all label, and then I'll just have GUI submit. So I can see if I look, I have a number of controls with that attached to that label. So we'll fill in that label right now. So all we're going to do in here is just the GUI submit. Okay, that's another control, another label out of the way. So let's see now. Let me go up and check out what we're supposed to be doing with this checkbox. So if I hit checkbox, it goes to submit all. So I don't need to do anything with that right now. In fact, its logic is probably going to be in one of our other labels. Press to save. So if I hit press to save, this I think I'm also going to be attaching to, let me see, press to save, variable, go to save ball. Okay. So what we're going to do with this one is we're actually going to create our text document with this button. So let me see, what's the name of that label? Button press to save, it's save bulk to file. Save bulk to file, here we go. So let's come in here and let's think about what we have to do. What we want to do first is, if a previous version of the document that we're going to be creating exists, we're going to get rid of it, because we're going to be using append and we don't want to add on top of our previous version of our file a updated version of it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do file delete. Now we could check to see if it actually exists, but because this is, if it doesn't exist, it's not going to do anything. We don't actually have to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete, and we're going to call, I'm going to call my file bulk.txt. You can call it whatever you want, but just remember as we go through other parts of this that you're going to have to use the name that you call it. So I'm going to call mine bulk.txt. Okay, so we've deleted, if there was a previous version of it, we've deleted it. Now what we're going to do is we are going to take the value that we have stored. No, my bad. First thing we need to do here is a GUI submit. Because we want to update whatever we typed into here before we save it, obviously. So we're going to update into the variable whatever we typed into here, and then we're going to delete that file. And now what we're going to do is we are going to write the contents of that variable into a new file. So let's find that variable. The variable is edit box bulk save. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do file append. I think I have this right. Alright, the text that we're going to be putting into it is the current value that is stored in our variable. So we're going to wrap it in percent marks and place inside our variable's name. And then we're going to pick our file that we're going to append. And the file that we're going to append is bulk save, or whatever you named yours. So bulk.txt, and I think we have our program there. So let's go ahead and run this. Okay. You know, I just thought of something. I don't think that this checkbox, I don't know why I have it going to submit all. I wrote this yesterday, like at least over 24 hours ago, and I went through it all and wrote out what I was going to be doing with it, but I don't remember why I did certain actions. So like I have the feeling that going to there isn't really what I want to do. If this checkbox is like that, maybe it's the edit. Okay, I see. You know what? It's this one here that I'm. Never mind. Bulk text to edit. Okay. I'm back on track. I almost want to re-record, but it's the nature of things, how it goes sometimes. All right. So I think we have our, what we can do is create our file now. So if I look, as soon as I ran that script, what it should have done is it should have created a folder. The first time I ran it, it should have created a folder that was called temp. There we go. So we have our folder. It should be empty right now, so it's got nothing in it. And if I come here and if I enable our controls and then start typing in, AutoSave isn't doing anything right now, so we don't have to worry about that. So if I start typing in, I can hit press to save. That'll update it and create a file. And now if I open up this, I should see a file called bulk.txt. And there we go. And if I open it, it should say Hellbent was here. Okay, so there we go. We've saved. We've used a button to actually save to a file. And now what we're going to do is we're going to make it so that way we can use our AutoSave. So it'll automatically, every time we interact with our edit, it'll automatically open up that file and save the contents. Okay, so let me see where we're going to be going with that. Okay, so we're going to be using the label that's attached to our edit box to do our check to see if this value is a 1 or a 0. So we're going to go down to bulk text edit. Bulk text edit. Okay, we'll open this up, and the first thing we want to do is every single time somebody types in there, we want to submit the contents of, or whatever we type in. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to check to see if our checkbox variable equals 1. We can check if it equals 0 as well, but I don't think we need to. Maybe we will. We'll see. So I'm going to take this. I want this variable here, the checkbox AutoSave variable, and I'm going to put that into my check here. And we're going to say if it equals 1, what we're going to do is basically everything that we did here. There is another, we're going to cover it later on in another way where this is actually a better, like there's a better way than what we're doing here, where it actually keeps the file open. So that way, right now what we're doing is every single time we type, so like if I typed out here, I type H, it's going to open up the file, it's going to delete that file, open it up and append with whatever we have. If I type E, it's going to do the exact same thing. It's going to delete our previous file and then create a new file with the text. And then again, and then again. So later on we're going to be taking a look at how we actually keep that file open, so it's a lot more efficient when we're putting information in real time like this, rather than constantly opening it and deleting it. Okay, but I think for now this one is more than, the speed will be way fast enough. Okay, so if the checkbox is checked, we're going to automatically save every single time we type. And then we are going to do else nothing. There is no else. We don't need anything else. I think the only other thing we need is just to submit when we actually type. So I think we have that. So let's go ahead and save and run. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of our previous bulk. So I'm going to get rid of this. Okay, so it's gone. And now we're going to use our autosave on. And if we start typing, so I'm going to type out Hellbent. So I'm going to type H. And there we go. It's already created our file. And if I look at the contents, it just has H in it. ELL. Right. And there we go. So we're typing in, as we type, it's deleting our previous file and creating a new one with the new contents. If I turn this off, and close this, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna type something else. So right now it has Hellbent was here. I'm gonna erase that and alright, so the last time, every single time I type something, it automatically updated into it. Now that I have autosave turned off, we shouldn't see anything there. So we still have our Hellbent was here. But if I hit press to save and then close it and then run it again, now we have that. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to set it so that way we can actually load into a variable the contents that are in this file. So far we've actually saved to that file. Now what we want to do is we want to grab from that file. So let me see the labels that I've used for that. So we need the label for this press to load. Now these two buttons, I could have combined them in one, but there's going to be reasons why sometimes where you're just going to want to load, you're not going to want to necessarily also display. So I'm going to go through each of them as their own thing, so that way you fully understand both of their properties, or all of their properties. So we're going to be looking at press to load, and this is going to take the contents of that file we've created and loading it into a variable. In our case, we're just going to be loading it into the variable that's associated with this. So, actually, you know what? Let's not do that. Let's load it into a temporary variable, so that way we can still type on this, and then when we want to, we can load the contents of the file into this. So we don't have to worry about typing here disrupting what we have in our loaded file. So we have press to load is going to load bulk file. So that's the label we want, load bulk file. And here we go. And all we're going to do here is we're just going to do file read. Is it read file or file read? Okay, file read. And now we're going to put this into a temporary variable. So I'm going to call the variable temp. And the file that we're going to be reading from is bulk.txt, or whatever you called yours. So now that we have that, we are good to go. So we've loaded it into a variable. We can't currently access that variable at the moment, but we have it in our script. The contents of that file, as soon as we hit press to load, it'll load into our script or into our variable, whatever that content was. Now what we're going to do is go through and we're going to make it so that way we can actually update our GUI with the contents of that. So let's go and have a look at our label. Our label is update edit, and here we go, update edit. And what do I want to do? I just want to display the contents that are on that screen. So let's go ahead and put that up there. So we're going to use GUI control. We don't need a subcommand, but we do need the variable that's associated with our edit box. So it was EB bulk save. So I'm just going to copy the name of that variable. And I'm going to put that right here. So it's GUI control, comma, nothing, comma, EB bulk save. And now the last parameter is what we're going to be typing up into there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the variable temp and display it up there. So I'm just going to wrap this in percent marks and type in temp. Okay, I think we have everything that we want. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. Bulk save. And I think we already have our file still. So if I look, the contents of the file is this was typed after it was turned off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load that into my script so that this has now been loaded in, and when I hit this it'll update into the GUI. There we go. Okay, so that's out of the way. The last thing we're going to do is we are going to run that text document so that way we don't have to keep opening it up like this every single time. So what we're going to do is, actually I can see right here it says run bulk text file, so I know that that's what I want. But I could also go up to my script and see what I had attached to it. And it's run bulk text file. So in this one here, what we're going to do is, first thing we're going to do is if when exists. If the window exists. So what we're going to do is we're going to check if we already have that document opened. Alright, and the window title is going to be the name of the file that we're going to be checking. So in my case, it's bulk.txt. And then if it is open, what I'm going to do, if it does exist, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close it. So I'm going to do when close. And what am I going to close? I'm going to close that file. Okay, so now that if it was opened, it's going to close it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to immediately open it again. So we're just going to do run. And because it's in our same file, we don't need its full path because it's in our working directory. So we're going to be using, let's see, what do we want? Run bulk text. Okay, and I think we have everything. Okay, so we'll hit this and we'll display our file. So there we go. If I want to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to auto save to that file. Hellbent is still here. I don't need to do anything like that. So I'm going to actually close this one, reopen it, and see if the changes have been made. Hellbent is still here. Okay, so this covers everything that we have for this tutorial. In the next one, we're going to take a look at how we take multiple different values from different controls and separate them so that way we can save them separated and load them separated. So as soon as we load the file the next time, it's going to automatically disperse all the variables to the appropriate controls that we're using. Alright, if you like these tutorials and you'd like to keep them coming, you can consider becoming a patron of this channel. Your support can go a long way, and I'll see you on the next one.